So it's been a while since we've actually talked quarterback tiers, quarterback rankings in Dynasty. So let's just do a top 24 starting at the bottom. Let's go right in. At QB 24 in tier 6, it is Kenny Pickett. As a rookie, Kenny Pickett was abysmal. The only reason he is at QB 24 and ahead of guys like Mac Jones and some other low-level players is maybe he gets better, right? Like, that's it. You're looking at the youth. You're looking at potential upside because there is some level of unknown with Kenny Pickett. But for a guy that threw under 10 touchdowns, never threw more than 1 touchdown in a single game, the only other rookie quarterbacks that have done that have started at least 12 games, Jimmy Clausen, Mitch Trubisky. Shout out to Addison for that stat a while back. Basically, Kenny Pickett is doomed. And if you're relying on him here, it's dire. Looking to QB 23, it is Trey Lance. I debated, right, keeping him in tier 6 with Kenny Pickett and the guys below, or bumping him up into tier 5. But right now, you just don't know if he's even going to start ever. Like that's the real question is he actually going to be a starter for the 49ers? Does he get traded and start somewhere else? Does he ever actually get a shot? As I'm even saying this, it feels weird putting them in the same tier because if Trey Lance does get a shot, the chances are he's a great pick for fantasy because he brings a ton of rushing upside. You're looking at a player that is going to run, 8, 9, 10 times a game. That alone already makes him more valuable than Kenny Pickett. The only difference here is we don't know if he actually ever gets to prove that value. I like to think Trey Lance is going to be a very good quarterback. But the NFL is telling me, hey, he probably isn't or he might not be. So we really can't rank him much higher. And the only reason he's here is because if he does, and hopefully when he gets a shot, it should be a great pick for fantasy. Now, moving to tier 5, this is a massive tier for me. It is full of young upside rookies and proven veterans that are just kind of moving along here. So at QB 22, it is going to be Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff was QB 12 last season. That was fantastic. But that's also his best finish since he was QB 6 in points per game all the way back in 2018. The symmetry between those two seasons is interesting because basically everything has to go right for Jared Goff to actually deliver for fantasy. And really, from a blocking standpoint, that's really what we're talking about. It did happen for Jared Goff in 2022, right? When you look at what he was able to do from the pocket, right? When he had a clean pocket, he was 11th in completion percentage. When it was under pressure, he was 33rd in completion percentage. Now, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks, so that should tell you everything you need to know about what happens when Jared Goff's behind a bad offensive line. Like, if you look at across his career, he has never been inside the top 20 quarterbacks in terms of completion percentage when under pressure. If things are not perfect, he's not going to succeed. Now, things, as far as an offensive line is concerned, are probably going to be close to perfect in 2023 for Jared Goff. So, a top 15 quarterback finish is very much in the cards. But expecting that kind of elite level offensive line year to year to year is how, we just kind of overextend and get overexcited about Jared Goff, who really is just a middling quarterback that is probably better suited as a mid to low end QB2 more than anything else. Now, moving to QB 21, it is Geno Smith, who's coming off of an absolutely electric season. Now, Geno Smith is a guy I could see moving up my rankings, but right now we're going off of a guy who has kind of a flash in the pan season, coming off being a backup for 7 straight years. Like, if I'm looking for short-term production, I love Geno Smith because he has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and JSN and Noah Fant and, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, an absolutely loaded skill group on a very good team as far as I'm concerned. So Geno Smith long-term is very, very dicey. But right now, he is a great QB2 if you're a contending roster. Coming in at QB 20, it is another boring, older mid-career quarterback. It's Derek Carr. And Derek Carr has been a low-end QB2 basically since the dawn of time. He has been QB 20, QB 20, QB 18 in points per game. Now, he does have a chance to beat those numbers, I think, with arguably the best set of skill players he has had since he's been in the NFL, with Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, hopefully Alvin Kamara for most of the season. That is a very good trio behind that New Orleans offensive line, with, I think, what is a very competent offensive play calling scheme. You could see him push for top 12. Now, realistically, don't expect it. I think QB 15 feels like a ceiling for Derek Carr. He's a fun, nope. He's a boring, reliable QB2. You're probably not winning a title if you're actually starting Derek Carr. But again, he has to sit here at QB 20 because we know what he is, and he's going to be a QB2 probably for the rest of time. Moving to QB 19, it is Aaron Rodgers, now officially out of Green Bay, now with the New York Jets. I would love to put Aaron Rodgers higher, but he's coming off of a down season. He is 39 years old. He now has to learn a new scheme, and he is now, 2 years removed from having Devontae Adams, and I get he has Garrett Wilson now, but Garrett Wilson is in year 2. He is nowhere near as talented as Devontae Adams was when he was with Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't expect those traditional top 10, top 8, top 6 type points per game seasons from Rodgers. Realistically, Rodgers profiles as a back-end QB1, high-level QB2. He could retire after this year. You could have Aaron Rodgers for 1 season, and then poof, gone. You never see him again. At most, I think we get 2 years of Aaron Rodgers. So if that's the case, it's really difficult to push him much higher up these rankings, especially coming off of, like I said, a very down season by his standards. Turning to QB 18, we have Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones could be higher. I know a lot of people will have him higher here because we've now seen the rushing upside he brings in this new New York Giants offense. If he can run for 700, 800 yards a season, top 10 is very much in his range of outcomes. My issue with Daniel Jones is I think he's a very bad passer. We could see Daniel Jones as a backup quarterback in 1 season. This could be his last season as a starter. I'm not bought in to him as a long-term talent. I've watched him for 4 years now, and it just does not look as if he has what it takes to be a true NFL caliber quarterback. For fantasy, he's fine, right? I treat him like I treat Geno Smith. So with that mindset, I can't move him higher over guys I expect to be starters for a significantly longer time and guys I expect to put up similar-ish production in terms of fantasy points. Now, turning to QB 17, we are looking at Russell Wilson here. Now, again, Russell Wilson, like Aaron Rodgers, also coming off of a very down season. But prior to this, Russell Wilson was the QB 13 in points per game. He was the QB 7. He was the QB 6. And everything we saw post Nathaniel Hackett showed Russ still has it in terms of fantasy. Now you get his new head coach in Sean Payton. You have a team with Greg Dulcich, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton is fine. They bring in Marvin Mims. They're surrounding him with talent. Russell Wilson is not washed. I do not believe he is magically washed up. I think we still have 3 to 5 years of solid Russell Wilson production. And when you count that Sean Payton is now there for the long haul, hopefully, Russ could, move back up your ranks. He could become, a top 15, top 14 quarterback in Dynasty if he returns to form this season, and I don't think that's out of the question. Sticking with the aging quarterback theme here, it is going to be Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is probably the safest pick in this tier, it feels like. He is a guy that is going to be a back-end QB1, basically forever. And as long as he has Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins' floor continues to be very high, right? You look at the last 3 seasons, QB 13 in points per game, QB 10 in points per game, QB 13 in points per game. The knock against Kirk Cousins is he has not been higher than QB 10 in terms of points per game. Kirk Cousins is not going to win you a league. But if you're a competitive roster, Kirk Cousins as a quote-unquote QB2, a guy that's, again, going to finish top 13, it feels like almost automatically. I love the idea of having Kirk Cousins. He's a cheap option that is just going to continue to produce for multiple seasons.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this video, but I wanted to let y'all know about our YouTube memberships on this channel. If you want extra bonus content from Justin or myself, access to my prospect database for all rookies since 2001, access to our exclusive Discord channel, as well as badges and emojis, then check out the YouTube memberships using the link in the description down below. The bonus content tier is what you're looking for more DLF on YouTube. Thanks for checking it out, guys, and we'll get back to this amazing video.
Now, getting to the last 3 players of this tier, we have CJ Stroud coming in at QB 15. CJ Stroud could turn into a Kirk Cousins caliber quarterback with slightly more upside. CJ Stroud, while he may not have a sky-high rushing floor, we've seen in college he's capable of running. You're going to get more than you would get with a guy like Kirk Cousins. He may have a more live arm as well. CJ Stroud really projects to be a long-term Kirk Cousins plus type player. That's why he's coming in ahead of, again, a guy I'm very excited about in Kirk Cousins, right, as a QB2. CJ Stroud can be more than that. I think he should be more than that moving forward. It's just a question of what production do you get on the ground that will really dictate how high CJ Stroud's ceiling actually is. Now at QB 14, it is the other rookie quarterback, Bryce Young. Bryce Young's coming in ahead of CJ Stroud because I project that rushing floor to naturally be higher than CJ Stroud. I think he's a similar passer, if not a better passer. And again, he's going to have a higher rushing floor. Now, he's not going to be Anthony Richardson, right? He's not going to run for 1,000 yards. But if you get 400 to 500 yards from Bryce Young, I don't think that's going to be surprising. I think that's right in his wheelhouse. And that's enough to give him a top 8 ceiling right year to year. And it's just a matter of how long does it take for him to realize that level of talent. It's not going to be year one. It's never year one with these guys that are kind of middling rushers, but good passers. Realistically, I think year 2, year 3, year 4 is when you see Bryce Young really move up these dynasty ranks. And he's a guy that could be, like I said, a top 8 quarterback, if not higher, if everything actually kind of comes together. So that's how I'm viewing Bryce Young. I get the concerns. But I think for fantasy, he's a better quarterback than CJ Stroud. And honestly, he's probably a better real-life quarterback than him and Anthony Richardson as well. So I'm very much in on Bryce Young as my QB 14 right now. Now, QB 13 is Anthony Richardson. This is an upside play, right? In a year, we could be saying Anthony Richardson is a top 5 quarterback or top 6 quarterback, whatever it is. Or we could say, yeah, he definitely doesn't have it. Like, I think that those are the outcomes. I'm on the side that I think Anthony Richardson will skyrocket up ranks at the end of this season. It's going to be similar to Justin Fields, right? I think they both are coming along as passers slowly, but the rushing upside is there. The production for fantasy is going to be there. Anthony Richardson's going to run for 1,000 yards. That's what you want for fantasy, right? Anthony Richardson may not have a 10-year career in the NFL, but the seasons he is a starter, they're going to be league-winning type seasons most likely. When quarterbacks run for 1,000 yards, they do nothing but put up fantasy points. It's the time to get in on Anthony Richardson because this is either going to be the cheapest he is going to be for like a decade, or it's just going to all implode. I'm on the side that this is the cheapest he is for the next long while. Now, at the start of tier 4 here, we're going to go with Tua Tagovailoa, and I get the health concerns, right? That's the big question mark with Tua. He is a concussion away from never playing again. However, when on the field, Tua was an absolute fantasy star last season. He was the QB 6 in points per game if you take away the game he left early. That's fantastic. And guess what? The head coach, Mike McDaniels, is still going to be there. So that offense is going to stay intact. He still has Tyreek Hill. He still has Jalen Waddle. He gets Devon Achane. He has Mostert, Jeff Wilson, right? That whole crew is still there. Tua is getting better. And as long as he is healthy, he is going to be undervalued in fantasy. Honestly, at QB 12, like I would love to put him higher, but the group ahead of him is just so solidified that this feels like where Tua has to be right now. Turning to QB 11, it is another quarterback that people just think is not good, and it's not true. It's Dak Prescott, right? Dak obviously was injured last season, threw a ton of interceptions, an abnormally high amount of interceptions for Dak Prescott. So naturally, he is being pushed down ranks, and I think that's a mistake. It's just a massive mistake. At QB 11, at least in Dynasty, this is a steal as far as I'm concerned. Dak can be a top 5 quarterback. We've seen it happen, right? His last 2 full seasons that he's played, the QB 7 and the QB 4 in points per game. Dak is a very good quarterback, so I'm just going to buy him off of a down season because he has CeeDee Lamb. They now get Brandon Cooks. Michael Gallup is a year removed, or 2 years removed from an ACL tear. Things are turning in Dak's favor, and if people are going to fade him because of that, I think that's just a massive mistake. Coming in at QB 10, it is Deshaun Watson. And speaking of down seasons, nobody had a worse season than Deshaun Watson, but I mean, throw it away. What did you expect, right? Multiple seasons of not playing football, didn't practice or couldn't practice for 12 weeks, and then he comes in and he sucks. He sucked it up. There's nothing else you can really say about that. But when Deshaun Watson played in Houston, he was QB 5. All 3 seasons, he was the full-time starter. The upside is top 5, top 4. Like, he's that good of a quarterback. We know he's capable of doing all of this. I fully admit, like, he is the riskiest player in tier 4, right? The next guy is going to be Kyler. Spoiler, he's riskier than Kyler Murray because if Deshaun Watson does not figure it out this year, he's going to tumble down dynasty ranks. He's going to lose all of his value. And that's going to suck, but I'll probably just buy cheap because the talent's there. We've seen him do it. He has the rushing upside. He has the ability to throw for 5,000 yards. You have Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb and Elijah Moore, David Njoku. You have a good team surrounding him. I'm going to buy back in to Deshaun Watson here at QB 10. And to round out the tier, it is Kyler Murray, and I know he's coming off of an ACL tear. I feel like this entire tier is just good quarterbacks that people are fading for dumb reasons. You have all the jokes about COD and watching film and everything else with Kyler Murray. But the fact of the matter is, when Kyler plays, he produces for fantasy. You're looking at a quarterback who has finished QB 10, QB 6, QB 8 in points per game the last 3 seasons. Just a year ago, right, Kyler was ranked as a top 5, top 6 quarterback for most people. Now he's down at QB 9, even for me, and that's because he's going to have a down season this year. He's not going to run as much. He's just going to have to get over the fear of injury, and that is going to probably further depress his value. But it may not be fun 2023, but 2024 Kyler is going to be fantastic. And if you buy him now, you're just going to see profit 2 years from now. Now, getting into tier 3, there's only 2 guys here. At number 8, it is Justin Fields. Now, Fields was the QB 6 in points per game last year, and I don't think that's the ceiling. The ceiling is not QB 6. The ceiling is overall QB 1 in fantasy, at least. But the rushing upside that's there, what he can develop into as a passer, right, that we saw at Ohio State, all of that is there. And if Justin Fields can realize the production, the talent that he's capable of, you're looking at a guy that can break fantasy. We saw it multiple times, and he's just electric. There's no other way around it. The issue, the reason he's not above Trevor Lawrence, is he has to develop into that passer. He is not that guy right now. A year from now, we could be painting an entirely different narrative, right? If DJ Moore unlocks him, right? A healthy Darnell Mooney, a full season of Chase Claypool, which probably shouldn't be a big difference, but maybe it is, right? You have Cole Kmet in year 4. There are a lot of things coming together for the Bears offense that if Justin Fields is not the guy this year, if he is not a true, solid, good passer, he's going to tumble down rankings. Now, I'm still keeping him up here in the tier, right, with Trevor Lawrence, who's just ahead of him at QB 7, because he's realized the production already, and realistically, he is on his way to being a passer. I'm that confident. Now, like I said, QB 7 is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence gave us what we wanted last season, right? We saw him from a switch flipped in week 6, right? Week 6 to week 16, because he didn't play the full game in week 17. So over that stretch, he put up 23.7 points per game. He shook off all of the weird Urban Meyer juju and turned into the quarterback we know Trevor Lawrence should be the rest of his career. And now you bring in Calvin Ridley. Things are looking up for Trevor Lawrence. And the only reason he's not a tier higher is we need to see him do it for a full season. It's just like Justin Fields. There is enough question about what is his actual consistent ceiling versus was that a flash in the pan. So Trevor Lawrence is going to be at the top of tier 3 here. And a year from now, he's going to be in tier 2, hopefully. That is where his trajectory is headed. And it's just a matter of Calvin Ridley actually turning him into that guy, giving him a true, number 1 wide receiver to work with. And if that happens, Trevor Lawrence is basically Justin Herbert. He's Joe Burrow. He's that level of player. Now, looking at tier 2, at the bottom, at QB 6, it is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is drafted later than Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson in 1 QB leagues, and he should be in the same exact area as those guys. And the reason is, you're 2 years removed from a 5,000-yard 38 touchdown season. Most players will never do that in their careers, right? He put up over 26 points per game. That is a ceiling a lot of people just do not possess as players. Joe Burrow hasn't hit those numbers yet. Justin Herbert's best season is better than that. The reason he's not ahead of Joe Burrow, he's not ahead of Lamar Jackson, is he's coming off of a down year. The shift in offensive coordinator change should help alleviate that, right? With Kellen Moore in town, they should be going down the field more. It should open up this offense. And Justin Herbert really could be, looked at the top of tier 2 by the end of this season. So I'm buying Herbert up everywhere because he's just valued lower than both those guys, but very much has a similar ceiling and can outproduce both this season. Looking at QB5, it is Lamar Jackson, and some people may have him lower. He is still very much capable of being that type of player on any given season, right? Coming off of averaging just under 23.7 points per game last year, the QB5. The ceiling's still QB1. He still has a 1,000-yard rushing ceiling. He still has the ability to throw for 30-plus touchdowns. And now you got a new offense that's going to pass more and hopefully kind of unlock and, move Lamar Jackson forward in the next step of his progression. I get being down on him because he's been hurt the last 2 seasons. But from a skill and a talent standpoint, he's a top 5 quarterback. There's no way around it, right? And to close out tier 2, it is Joe Burrow. What do you want me to say about Joe Burrow that everybody does not know, right? The rest of these players on this list are all just very, very good players. And the big thing with Burrow is he's tied to Chase. He is tied to T. Higgins. He has an elite wide receiver group, hopefully for the rest of his career or some version of his career. And then on top of all of that, 2 years removed from the ACL tear, you saw the rushing floor come back for Joe Burrow. That's a big piece of this because the question was after year 1 was, is he actually going to run after an ACL tear? He really didn't in year 2, and that was a real concern for the upside there. That came back. He gives us 5 rushing touchdowns, and that may not be sticky year to year, but knowing he's capable of doing that, having that type of production, it just raises the floor a little bit. Now, turning to tier 1, we have 3 quarterbacks here, and this can be quick because I don't think it matters how you put them or what order you put them in. We have Jalen Hurts, we have Josh Allen, we have Patrick Mahomes in that order from 3 to 2 to 1. Now, Hurts is just coming off of a 27.7 point per game season. He has a ton of rushing touchdowns. He unlocks himself as a passer with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. What's not to like? There are people that are going to say he should be in tier 2 because he hasn't done it for multiple seasons yet. I don't care. I have seen enough of Jalen Hurts. As someone who is skeptical of him developing as a passer, he is a tier 1 quarterback. Now, number 2, Josh Allen. I don't have to say anything. It's Josh Allen. And then number 1, it's Mahomes. I don't have to say anything. It's Patrick Mahomes, right? You know everything about both of these guys. They are superstars. They are the QB 1 and 2, basically for the next decade, it seems. So buy into any of the 3. I don't think it really matters all that much. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. If you have questions, you have comments, you want to rip these rankings apart, whatever it is, drop it down below. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.